We have 6 teams on bye. We have some fantasy football players actually starting their playoffs now. So these rankings are going to be incredibly important. I'm excited to dive into our top 30, I will admit. It's very difficult with 6 players on bye and a couple injuries. Before we get into anything though, please go down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down there in the comment section. And in that comment section, you can find a link to my favorite place to get tickets. Whether you want tickets for an NFL game, a college game, a music festival, whatever the hell it is, you can find them on Game Time. With Game Time, they're going to allow you to get tickets all the way up until game time. And for that reason, you're going to be able to get great deals, sometimes up to, if not more than 50% off. I mean, I think it's probably the best idea I've ever had. I'm jealous that I didn't come up with it myself. And if you download Game Time with the link in the description or the comment section and use promo code FANTASYFLOCK, you will get $20 off your first purchase of $150 of tickets. But I think that should be it. Of course, thank you so much for Game Time sponsoring this video, and thank you for being a part of the flock. Let's dive into this. Let's go over to our first running back here in Austin Ekeler. Now with Austin Ekeler, I mean, full PPR format going up against the Miami Dolphins. I mean, I'm just ranking him at 1 because our guy at 2, Josh Jacobs, who was our #1 running back a week ago, is playing on Thursday night. So I figured, okay, if you're playing on Thursday night, you're going up against the Rams. Maybe there's some just nastiness on a Thursday night game that's an in-division rival. So figured we'll still have Josh Jacobs in tier 1, but we'll go through and we'll put Austin Ekeler up there at #1 overall. Really doesn't matter. They're tier 1 running backs. Dropping down to tier 2, we are going to have Derrick Henry at 3. With Derrick Henry coming off a very bad game against the Philadelphia Eagles, but the Eagles are very good. And I got news for you. The Jacksonville Jaguars aren't so. If we were going to be going through and looking at the spread of this game, right now the Tennessee Titans are obviously favorited. On top of this, if we look at what the Jacksonville Jaguars just allowed to the combo of DeAndre Swift as well as Jamal Williams, I mean, hell, if Derrick Henry is able to go through and to come out with that, I think you should be very excited. At 4, we are going to have Christian McCaffrey. Even without Elijah Mitchell, they still go through and split the backfield in San Francisco. Now, the reason we're having CMC at 4 in tier 2, even though he has the exact kind of role that you are wanting in a passing down running back, hell, it's a tough matchup going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Right now, the 49ers are about 3.5-point favorites. Going to be interested to see how this line may change after the Buccaneers game on Monday night. Going over to 5, we have Joe Mixon. With Joe Mixon, I mean, I think that he is most likely going to play. And with Mixon, because he's coming off a concussion and not necessarily an ankle sprain, a hamstring strain, I think that he is going to be with his usual workload. And if you go through and look at the amount of fantasy points that have been scored by backfields in the NFL this year, Cincinnati is at the very top of that. I mean, Samaje Perine came in, and Samaje Perine was a low-end RB1 in the absence of Joe Mixon. I don't necessarily think Perine keeps a very large role here when Joe Mixon comes back this week. I think Mixon's a lot better than Perine as well, and this is just such a valuable backfield to be the starter in. Now, dropping down to our next tier, we're going to go Ramondre Stevenson at 6. I know we're being aggressive. I understand we are being extremely aggressive with Ramondre Stevenson on Monday night, but we're making these rankings for a full PPR format. And with Ramondre Stevenson in that full PPR league, he is getting used as if he's prime Alvin Kamara. The man is getting every single target in this offense. I mean, their entire game plan is, okay, let's drop back. Don't let Mac Jones look 15 yards down the field. Instead, let's just have him dump it off to Ramondre. I mean, I don't really understand this offense. I don't understand what they're doing. It is a pretty good matchup against Arizona. They are favored by about 1 to 2 points, depending on the sports book that you're looking at. In the full PPR format, Ramondre is going to get used as that pass catcher. Saquon Barkley is going to be at 7. Obviously, Barkley is a significantly better running back than Ramondre Stevenson. I'm not going to try to say anything otherwise. But with Saquon Barkley going up against the Philadelphia Eagles, and this Philadelphia Eagles team, I think that we should be pretty damn worried about this matchup based on what we just saw with this Philadelphia Eagles defense shutting down Derrick Henry based off the offensive line injuries in New York, based off the wide receiver injuries in New York. I mean, the New York Giants are just sputtering while the Philadelphia Eagles look like they're arguably one of the best teams in the NFL. And they have the best record in the NFL. Right now, you have the Giants as about 7-point dogs. So I'm just a little bit worried about how they're going to be able to effectively move the ball down the field with this new and improved Philadelphia Eagles defense. But going over to 8, we are going to have Nick Chubb playing the Cincinnati Bengals. With Chubb, Deshaun Watson was very bad his first weekend. I don't want to sit here and say anything else. I know that he didn't have to throw the ball. They didn't have to be aggressive downfield. I mean, the defense really carried them against the Houston Texans, and the Browns easily won. It doesn't matter. Even from an efficiency standpoint, Deshaun Watson was bad. Even if the game environment wasn't exactly what you would want to see, Deshaun Watson looked very, very rusty. I mean, for all the best ball teams I have him in, I'm hoping that Deshaun Watson can get better soon. But I don't know. I think maybe this is just going to be a spot where it takes a few weeks for Deshaun Watson to really get going. I mean, right now, if you're looking at the spread of this game between the Bengals and Browns, the Browns are about 6-point dogs in this. It's in Cincinnati. So I don't love the matchup. I don't love the offensive environment that you have for Nick Chubb. But dropping down to our next tier, we're going to go very bold here. We're going DeAndre Swift at 9. Now, I wanted to make a statement with this DeAndre Swift ranking. I wanted to squeeze him inside the top 10 here. And I wanted to say, if you have DeAndre Swift, this is the time to play him. We've been waiting for months, but finally DeAndre Swift saw more snaps than Jamal Williams this past week in a game environment where you would have assumed Jamal Williams would have been the guy. I mean, it's not like the Detroit Lions were playing from behind. The Detroit Lions had a lead the entire time. DeAndre Swift taking over as the starter. He is a phenomenal pass catcher. This offense looks pretty damn good as well. Now, Dalvin Cook is going to be the next running back. I understand with Dalvin, I mean, there's a lot to talk about. I know some people don't like him. If you're looking at a points per game perspective, he hasn't been that good up until this point. But if you were looking at over-unders this week, right now, Las Vegas sportsbooks are telling us that the Minnesota Vikings and Detroit Lions game is going to be the highest scoring game of the week. And if that's the case, I want pieces in this Minnesota Vikings and Detroit Lions game in my lineup. Now, going over to 11, we're going to have James Conner. And if I were to rank these running backs rest of season, I promise you we are going to have James Conner higher than this. James Conner playing like 63 out of 65 snaps the last time we saw him. But the issue with Conner is just going to be the matchup going up against the New England Patriots. Shouldn't be a good matchup whatsoever. I mean, right now, if we're looking at the amount of points that this game's supposed to score, it's going to be at 44, and the Arizona Cardinals are dogs in this. So I'm not a massive fan of the James Conner matchup, and that's why it's going to be a little bit lower, even if the volume is there. And then at 12, we are going to have Travis Etienne. You better believe Etienne's still a running back 1 in my book. I know 2 weeks ago he got hurt. I know this past week he disappointed going up against the Detroit Lions. Don't overthink this. Travis Etienne is still a great running back. He played over 90% of the snaps, or pretty damn close to it this past week in Jacksonville. He gets targeted out of the backfield. He sees every freaking snap. He's a very, very good running back. Don't let the last 2 weeks fool you into benching him. Now, our next guy, we're going to have Kenneth Walker here with a massive asterisk. All right, a massive asterisk on Kenneth Walker. There's a good shot he doesn't play. Now, keep in mind, he's my second most drafted running back behind Josh Jacobs, so you better believe I am going to try to convince myself, fool myself, that Kenneth Walker is playing this week, that he will be able to go out there and crush the Carolina Panthers. I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard of manifesting something in your life, but that's what we're doing here, even if we are maybe wrong to do so. Now, dropping down to our next tier, we're going to go with Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott back-to-back, 14-15. The Dallas Cowboys right now in this game are 17-point favorites. 17-point favorites against the Houston Texans. Dallas is going to be running the ball over and over and over again. I think both Pollard as well as Ezekiel Elliott are must-start players in this matchup. I mean, it's just going to be the perfect game environment for him. And Dallas literally just dropped 54 points. Now, our next guy will be Miles Sanders at 16. Going up against the Giants, kind of whatever. I mean, with Sanders, we talk about it all the time. He's a starting running back in an elite level offense that kind of goes back and forth. You'll get 1 week where the Philadelphia Eagles will go up against the Green Bay Packers and say, okay, yeah, the run game is working. Let's run the ball over and over and over again until we score 40 points. And then the next week they go up against the Tennessee Titans and they're like, okay, yeah, Tennessee just saw what we did against the Packers by running the ball consistently. Let's just go through and have Jalen Hurts drop back. Let's just throw deep bombs to A.J. Brown, deep bombs to Devonta Smith. So there's a lot of volatility, but this is an elite level offense. Obviously, we've been talking also about the fact that, you do have Kenneth Gainwell, Jalen Hurts vulturing rushing touchdowns. But at 17, we are going to have Najee Harris going up against the Baltimore Ravens. You don't love the matchup here. What's funny is with the Lamar Jackson injury, Pittsburgh's actually favored by 3 points, but still should be a low-scoring game. If we're going to be looking at the over-under of this contest, I believe maybe this is the lowest scoring game of the week. Yeah, it is. Right now you have the over-under, according to, the majority of sports books, at 37 points. There aren't supposed to be many points scored at all between the Pittsburgh Steelers and Baltimore Ravens offenses. So even if Najee has the workload, I don't know how valuable the game environment is. But now dropping down to our next tier, we are going to have Jamal Williams 18. With Jamal Williams, I think DeAndre Swift's the guy now. I think DeAndre Swift's taking over with Jamal Williams. He is going to be somewhat touchdown or bust, but keep in mind, we are just looking at the fact that the Detroit Lions game will have a ton of points scored in it. Now, our next one is going to be Bam Knight going up against the Buffalo Bills. Of course, if Michael Carter plays, you drop Knight dramatically down. I didn't want to start any running back for the New York Jets this past week. I wanted to wait and see what the opportunity was going to be, if this was going to be a 3-man running back by committee, a 2-man running back by committee, or you were going to get Knight with the majority of touches. And yep, people were right. Knight does get the majority of touches here, over, I believe, 60% of the snaps as well. Don't love the matchup against Buffalo, though. Now, our next one's going to be Leonard Fournette at 20, Rachaad White at 21. Please don't scream at me for this. I did not watch the Monday night game yet. I'm recording this right before, so we do not know what happened. I'm hoping that Rachaad White had a great game. I did tell a lot of people to start Rachaad White Sunday morning, so this is going to be very embarrassing if he did not. And it's a brutal matchup against the 49ers. So both running backs are playing for Tampa. I don't know how excited we are to go through and start either one of these guys. But now our last running back in this tier, Dameon Pierce. Speaking of brutal matchups and brutal offenses, Dameon Pierce will be going up against the Dallas Cowboys. I urge you, if you have a different option, I know you may not with all the injuries as well as 6 teams on bye. I know you may not have an option other than Dameon Pierce. I wish we could rank him outside the top 24 running backs, but it's just up to the injuries. And honestly, we may move Dameon Pierce down. We may move him down these rankings the more we think about it. Now, our next tier is going to be Deontay Foreman, 23. Really good matchup going up against the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle, yes, good team, but we have seen running backs be able to score points against them. Cam Akers just came out from nowhere and had 2 rushing touchdowns in a very bad offense. We know the Carolina Panthers are a very bad offense. The spread on this game is actually only about 3.5 points. I don't know. Fine play with Deontay Foreman. Obviously, he's not going to catch the ball. Someone else that won't catch the ball is going to be Isaiah Pacheco. With Pacheco, this is a running back that's in a much better offense going up against the Denver Broncos. It's not the best spot where we know that the Broncos are probably just going to be a good defense with an offense putting up 7 points. I think that's a fair projection. What is interesting in what we've seen from the Kansas City Chiefs is even if they're winning a game by multiple touchdowns in the second half, they'll still have Patrick Mahomes drop back. They'll still be throwing the ball. I don't really understand it too much, but it is kind of what it is. And our next guy will be Latavius Murray in that same game going up against Kansas City. Told everybody to bench Latavius Murray this past week in a very bad matchup against the Baltimore Ravens. And on top of that, didn't know what the Mike Boone role was going to be. Well, Mike Boone really didn't play. Mike Boone played like 20% of the snaps. Latavius Murray getting targeted out of the backfield. Latavius Murray still a 3-down running back. The issue is it's a horrible offense. And another horrible offense is going to be Cam Akers and the Los Angeles Rams going up against the Raiders. They're about 5.5 to 6-point dogs. I don't necessarily know what we should be doing with Akers. He clearly is the starting running back here over Kyren Williams, but it's a bad offense in a Thursday night game. For the love of God, these Thursday night games have been horrible. I hope he does well because the best ball teams we were dumb enough to draft him in, but I don't want to have our hopes up too much. And now our next tier is going to be the who the hell knows tier. We are going to have James Cook, Devin Singletary back to back. So James Cook looked like the starting running back this past week. James Cook saw more targets out of the backfield and more carries over Devin Singletary than what we had previously. But at the same time, it's a 1-week sample. Who the hell knows? And same thing with the next two guys, with Raheem Mostert as well as Jeff Wilson. I mean, this past week, Raheem Mostert was the starting running back, however you want to break it down. He played more snaps, had more touches. It's a good matchup for both running backs going up against the Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, this should be a very high-scoring game, and against the Chargers, you can't effectively run the ball. Maybe if we get the coaching staff in Miami giving us some more clarity of who the actual guy is or what the workload's going to be like, we can move these players up a tier. We can maybe move them to be top 24 to 20 running backs in that range. It's just difficult right now when we're operating with so little information about what the opportunity is going to be for either guy. But I think that's all we got for this video. Of course, if you enjoyed it, please go down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down there in the comment section. And if you want to get tickets to any NFL game, any college game, any music event, anything, I would recommend going down to the link in the description, the link in the comment section, going and downloading Game Time, get those tickets all the way up until game time. And because you can, you're going to get great deals on them. Use promo code FANTASYFLOCK for $20 off your first order of, I believe, $150 or more. But thank you again. I appreciate you. I hope you have a great day, and I hope we get to see you out in the live stream tonight.